Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. The night the storm rolled in, Daniel Mercer stood in the middle of a deserted street, rain hammering against his face, his suit soaked through, and no one who passed him would ever guess he owned half the skyline above him. His driver had begged him to wait in the car, but Daniel had stepped out anyway, breathing in the smell of wet asphalt and distant lightning like a man starving for something real. He whispered to himself, "One night, just one night without anyone bowing." A truck splashed through a puddle as it passed him. The cold water slapped against his legs. He didn't flinch. For once, he wasn't the billionaire heir to Mercer Holdings. He was just a man, anonymous, forgettable. And for reasons he couldn't fully explain, it felt like freedom. He ducked into a quiet diner, glowing with old neon. Warm light spilled over worn leather booths and the scent of coffee drifted through the air. An older man behind the counter looked up. "Kitchen's closing soon," he said. "That's all right," Daniel replied. "Just coffee." His voice sounded strange to him, bare, unarmored. He slid into a booth. For the first time in years, no one recognized him. No one asked for a donation, a handshake, or a photo. It was peaceful. Then the door swung open again. A young woman stumbled inside, holding her breath as if she'd been running. Her hair was plastered to her cheeks, her clothes drenched, her hands shaking as she brushed water from her face. The man at the counter frowned. "Rough night." "You could say that," she muttered. Daniel watched her as she scanned the room, clearly expecting judgment. She didn't get any from him. Their eyes met for a moment. Hers full of embarrassment, his full of quiet curiosity, before she walked past him toward a corner booth. Something tugged at him then, a pull he hadn't felt in years. She ordered a bowl of soup. When it arrived, she clasped the warm ceramic like she was holding on to the last piece of safety in her life. Daniel tried not to stare, tried and failed. Finally, she looked up. "What?" she snapped softly. Never seen someone soaked to the bone before. Her voice trembled, but the fire behind it didn't. He raised his hands gently. "Wasn't judging, just hope you're okay." She studied him for a moment, expecting some hidden agenda, but Daniel had none, at least none she could see. "Bad night," she finally said. "End of a long week." He nodded slowly. "Same here." A faint, reluctant smile flickered across her lips. "You don't look like someone who has bad weeks." "Everyone does," he murmured. The storm outside growled, shaking the windows. She flinched at the sound and quickly looked away, pretending she hadn't. There was something raw in her expression, fear, maybe, or exhaustion, or loss. Daniel felt something shift inside him, something dangerous, something promising. He didn't know her name. She didn't know his wealth or the empire behind his harmless, rain-streaked disguise. Yet as the thunder cracked again, the entire diner seemed to hold its breath, waiting for whatever came next. The storm didn't let up. If anything, it pressed harder against the windows, rattling the glass like a warning. Inside the diner, time thickened, quiet, heavy, and strangely intimate. Daniel kept stealing glances at the young woman while pretending to sip his coffee. She tried to appear unfazed, but the way her fingers gripped the spoon betrayed her. Finally, she exhaled and spoke without looking at him. "You keep staring." He blinked. "Sorry, just you seem like you're carrying a lot." She let out a short laugh, bitter, tired. "A lot, that's one way to put it." She paused, and something about the silence made her add, "Name's Lily." Daniel hesitated, not because he didn't want to tell her, but because the name he lived under came with weight, expectation, and an empire carved into the skyline. If he said Daniel Mercer, everything would change. So he said quietly, "I'm Daniel, just Daniel." Her eyes lifted, searching his face as though testing the truth of him. "Well, Daniel, you ever have one of those days when everything you built just falls apart?" He swallowed. "I know something about that." She looked down again. "Lost my job today. Can't pay rent. Thought things couldn't get worse, and then," she motioned at her soaked clothes. "Life's got a sense of humor." The man at the counter called out, "Diner's closing in 10." Lily stiffened. Daniel noticed her glance toward the door, then toward her backpack, worn, frayed, and too light to be holding anything more than a few clothes. She didn't have anywhere to go. He could help. Of course he could help. A single call and she'd have a hotel room with a city view. Warm towels, food, safety. But if he did that, the truth would spill out, and the fragile thing growing between them, the thing built on anonymity, on equal ground, would vanish. So instead he cleared his throat. There's a bus shelter across the street, covered, better than staying out in this. She shrugged. I've slept in worse places. The words hit him harder than they should have. He leaned forward. Let me walk you there, just until the rain slows. Lily opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. A softer expression crossed her face, wariness giving way to something like gratitude. All right, she whispered. Just to the shelter. They stood, both of them startled by how close they were in height, in presence, in something neither one could name yet. When they stepped outside, the rain felt colder, sharper. They jogged across the road, splashing through puddles until they reached the dimly lit shelter. Inside, water dripped from the metal roof in uneven rhythms. Lily collapsed onto the bench, hugging her backpack tight. Thanks for not acting weird about all this. Daniel smiled faintly. We're both having bad nights, might as well have them together. He sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance, but the storm quieted just enough for them to hear each other breathe. After a beat, Lily said softly, You know you're different. Most people either pity me or ignore me. Maybe I see what others miss. She looked at him, a long, searching look that made his heart trip. Or, she whispered, maybe you're running from something too. The question hung in the cold, rain-soaked air, unanswered, dangerous, and pulling them both into whatever came next. The rain softened to a mist that drifted into the shelter like a restless ghost. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city hummed in the distance, traffic, far-off sirens, the low rumble of thunder fading into memory. Finally, Daniel answered her earlier question. Maybe I am running, he said quietly. From noise, from people who only see what they want from me. Lily tilted her head. You talk like someone important. He laughed under his breath. Not really, just someone tired. She studied him with narrowed eyes, as though trying to peel back layers he'd spent a lifetime perfecting. When she didn't find what she expected, she leaned back against the cold metal wall. I used to think I was tired, she murmured, but today felt like someone pulled the last brick out from under everything I'd built. What happened at your job? Daniel asked, her throat tightened. Manager said they were downsizing, told me I was too soft for the pace, which is funny considering I did the work of 3 people every day. He watched her hands tremble slightly. She tucked them under her arms. Sorry, she said. Didn't mean to unload. You're not, he replied softly. You're just telling the truth. A soft smile curved her lips before fading. She looked down at her shoes, soaked and muddy. Truth, she whispered, feels rare these days. A bus roared past without stopping, spraying mist across the sidewalk. The gust of wind pushed Lily closer to him. She didn't move away. Instead, she sighed, deep, trembling, and honest. You want to know the worst part? She asked, voice low. I've been trying so hard to prove I can survive on my own, that I don't need saving. But tonight, I don't know, I just feel small. Daniel looked at her carefully, choosing every word like stepping stones across water. Everyone feels small, he said, even the people who look untouchable. Lily turned to him. You talk like you're speaking from experience. He nodded once, a gesture that told her more than he intended. She pulled her knees to her chest and rested her chin on them. What about you? What are you running from? He hesitated, the truth pressing at him from all sides, but revealing it now would shatter the fragile honesty between them. He wasn't ready for that. Not yet. So he took a breath. I'm running from expectations, from a life that doesn't feel like mine anymore. Lily blinked slowly. That sounds lonely. It is, he admitted. She shifted slightly closer, her shoulder brushing his jacket. Well, maybe tonight we're 2 lonely people keeping each other warm. He felt that touch like an electric current. Maybe, he whispered. A police cruiser rolled past the shelter, its lights painting the wet pavement red and blue. Lily stiffened reflexively, her grip tightening on her backpack. Daniel noticed. Everything okay? He asked. She nodded, but her eyes told another story. They're not looking for me, she said, just bad memories with uniforms. The wind swept in again, carrying the metallic scent of the city. He wanted to ask more, he wanted to understand her, but before he could, Lily's face suddenly drained of color. She stared down the street, eyes wide. Oh no, she breathed. Not him. Daniel straightened. Who? But Lily was already standing, her voice barely above a whisper. My ex, he found me. A tall shadow moved under the street lamp, cutting through the mist with slow, deliberate steps. Daniel followed Lily's gaze and saw a man approaching, broad-shouldered, hood up, confidence radiating from every stride like a warning. Lily took a shaky step backward. "We need to go," she whispered. Daniel rose immediately. "Who is he?" "Someone who doesn't understand boundaries or the word no." The man crossed the street without looking for traffic, his eyes locked on Lily as though she were property he'd misplaced. When he stopped in front of them, a sly grin spread across his face. "Well, well," he drawled, "didn't expect to find you hiding out here." Lily's breath hitched. "Go away, Marcus, I'm not talking to you." Marcus blinked, amused. "You ran off with my money and my apartment key. We're definitely talking." Daniel stepped forward. "She said she doesn't want to." Marcus turned to him, sizing him up. "And who the hell are you? Her new savior?" he snorted. "Cute jacket. Looks like you think you're tough." Daniel's pulse thudded in his ears, but his voice stayed calm. "She doesn't owe you a conversation." Marcus laughed low and mean. "You think you're protecting her. You don't know a damn thing about what she's done." Lily flinched. "Don't, please." But Marcus pushed on, leaning close enough that Daniel caught the cold reek of alcohol on his breath. "She left a mess behind. You have no clue who you're standing up for." Daniel felt Lily trembling beside him. The instinct to shield her surged through him, raw and unfiltered, but punching the man wouldn't solve anything. "Not here, not now." "Lily," Daniel said softly, "we should go." Marcus stepped in front of them, blocking the exit from the shelter. "You're not going anywhere until she tells me where my stuff is." Lily's voice cracked. "I told you I didn't take anything. You locked me out. You changed the password, remember?" Marcus rolled his eyes. "You always were dramatic." She recoiled as though struck. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Move." Marcus smirked. "Make me." A tense silence followed, fragile and dangerous. Rain pattered lightly against the metal roof, the only sound between them. Then a bus turned the corner, its headlights sweeping across the shelter. Marcus glanced back, annoyed at the interruption. Daniel seized the moment. He grabbed Lily's hand, pulling her toward the edge of the sidewalk. "Come on." She didn't hesitate. They sprinted through the shallow puddles, weaving past the front of the bus just as it slowed. Marcus shouted behind them, but his voice was swallowed by the roar of the engine and the rush of the wet street. They turned down a narrow alley lit by flickering bulbs. Daniel didn't stop until they slipped behind a stack of discarded crates. Both of them bent over, gasping. "Sorry," Lily whispered. "I'm so sorry you got dragged into." "Don't apologize." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this." She stared at him, breath still uneven. "You barely know me. Maybe, but I know fear when I see it, and I know you didn't deserve whatever he did to you." Her throat worked, but no words came out. A tear slipped down her cheek, quickly wiped away. Daniel looked out toward the alley opening. No footsteps, no angry voice, only distant city sounds. "We should get somewhere safer," he said. Lily nodded. "I know a place not far." She hesitated, then laced her fingers through his. An instinctive, desperate grip. "Thank you," she breathed. And in that fragile moment, as they stepped out of hiding, Daniel felt a truth stirring inside him. He wasn't protecting her out of pity. He was protecting her because something in her had already claimed a part of him he didn't know was missing. They walked through the quiet streets with their hands still intertwined, the night carrying the strange calm that often follows chaos. Lily led Daniel toward an old brick building tucked between two towering apartment complexes. A rusted fire escape clung to its side like an afterthought. "This place?" Daniel asked softly. She nodded. "It used to be my aunt's studio. No one's lived here in years, but I kept a spare key, just in case." The door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the room smelled of dust and old paint. A single bulb flickered to life when she found the switch, revealing canvases leaning against walls, jars of hardened brushes, and a couch that looked tired but intact. Lily let out a shaky breath. Safe enough for tonight. Daniel stepped in behind her, closing the door. For a moment they simply stood there, letting the silence settle. The storm had finally given way to a calm drizzle that tapped gently on the window pane. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, though her eyes shimmered with exhaustion. "I didn't think I'd ever have to see Marcus again. He takes things, pieces of you, makes you feel like you owe him what he stole." Daniel moved closer. "He won't get near you again, I promise." A faint smile flickered on her lips. "You say that like someone who can actually make promises." "I can." She looked at him, really looked at him. "Who are you, Daniel?" The question he'd been running from all night finally caught him. There was no alley to hide in now, no diner booth to sit behind. Only her and the truth and the fragile thread between them. He exhaled. "My last name is Mercer." She blinked, confusion knitting her brow. "Like Mercer Holdings?" He nodded once. Lily backed up a step, eyes widening. "No, no, are you joking?" "I wish I were. Tonight was the first time in years I stepped out of that world, and you were the first person who saw me without it." Lily pressed a hand to her forehead. "You mean I dragged a billionaire into a street fight with my ex?" He laughed despite himself. "I dragged myself into it." She sank onto the couch, torn between disbelief and something like betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the moment I say my name, everything changes. People look at me differently, expect things, want things." He knelt in front of her, low enough to catch her gaze. "I didn't want you to run." She softened, but uncertainty lingered. "And now?" "Now," he said quietly, "I'm asking you to stay, not because I can fix your life, but because you've already changed mine." Lily swallowed hard. "Daniel, I don't care about your money. I care about the man who sat in a bus shelter with me like the world wasn't falling apart." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. In the quiet of the abandoned studio, with rain whispering against the windows, she leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. "For the first time in months," she whispered, "I don't feel alone." He pulled her into his arms, holding her with a tenderness he hadn't offered another soul in years. Outside, the city kept moving, unaware of the quiet miracle happening in a forgotten corner of it. But inside, two people who had been running from their own stories finally found the courage to start a new one together. "Whatever comes next," Daniel murmured, "we face it together." Lily nodded, eyes closing. "Together." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and visit the channel for more powerful real-life tales.